You're Why couldn't that sneeze happen before I went live? What's up, Giants fans, Hub watchers, YouTube and Rumble subscribers, Twitter and Instagram followers? It's Kush back at again with another episode of the Just Chillin Podcast live Q&A show. As you have noticed, it's Friday and I haven't gotten a chance to put out my preview video yet. I've been super busy with school. Had my first exam of the semester, took the first exam of the semester, aced the first exam of the semester. We all good there. But there was also a lot of, assignments that I had this week from school, which is why I didn't really have a chance to get on YouTube that much in terms of making videos and even in terms of streams. I think this is only my second or third stream this week. And I usually get around 4 a week, but that's kind of a little quick explanation as to why I don't have a preview video out and in general any other video out this week. So that's why I'm having this stream instead of a preview video. It's more of a preview stream. There will be a couple people popping on as we go through the night. One of them's already here. I'm about to pop in a second. We got Jaden the Champ in the chat, Big Blue in the Bronx, Deception, Bark Nasty, Lucas A. Kim, Member Alert, Frankie G, Big Pat Sports Talk. Thank you for the congrats. If you want to pop in, man, just let me know on Twitter. I'll swing you the link. Edward Chan in here as well. He says Thibodeau and Neil season. This man's already done. I don't blame you. With that being said, let me pop in first dude of the night. It is Nate. What's up, Nate? How you doing? You're rocking blue. Is it Giants or is it just random blue?
I mean, it's random blue, but it's always Giants blue. There's no such thing as non-Giants blue. But yeah, I mean, I apologize for my lateness. Dog needed my attention urgently.
It's a minute, bro. It doesn't even matter. Who is Giants World in here? The Glizzy Gobbler himself. I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know who he is, but he's talking some facts. Here.
He's talking some non-facts. The fact of the matter is the people in chat don't know what's going on, so that's all that matters.
I mean, so most people in chat will not know what this is in reference to unless you follow Hub closely on Twitter or you are in his Discord and you are actively participating in that, which you should be. So get in there. I'm sure there's a link somewhere you can hop on.
In the description.
But let's just say that some footage was leaked. That's all that needs to be said.
All I'm going to say is that wasn't
all that needs to be said.
Whoever was in that video had no swag. None of the clothes he had on matches any clothes that I currently have on. The dude looks about like 5 to 6 years younger than me. He don't have the bags. He got no mustache, no beard, no nothing, bro.
All right.
Ligament in here as well. Shout out to Calvin for the early $10 super chat. I really appreciate it. Arizona Cardinals fan, who I believe you guys are doing very well. He says, rooting for your Giants, bro. Go get that W. I hope so, man. We gonna hope for that.
We'll pray.
But yeah. What's up, man? Okay. How you feeling about this game? I don't know why, but a lot of people I'm seeing for some reason they're like, we're gonna upset the Saints. I'm like, how?
Listen,
explain to me how.
I respect the never-ending optimism. I do. There's something to be admired in that. For me, I have my doubts. We're coming into this game down two of our best receivers in Sterling Shepard and Darius Slayton. Arguably our best receiver on the year so far in Sterling Shepard because Kenny Golladay hasn't been getting involved. And it is just not looking good. Marshawn Lattimore is in for the game. Jameis Winston is in for the game. Demario Davis is in for the game. They're missing their star
couple of their
tackle.
Linemen, right?
Yeah, God, his name is escaping me.
Armstead,
thank you. Teron Armstead.
And there's somebody else as well. I think there's 2 linemen that are missing. I can't remember the second one.
Yeah, DeCastro. Or is it McCoy?
I know they're missing a tackle and a guard.
I think they're missing McCoy. Point is, they're missing a couple of good offensive linemen, and I'd normally be excited about that, but the fact of the matter is we can't get pressure at all against some lines that aren't really that good to begin with. So there's not a whole lot of reason for optimism there. If there was a time for the pass rush to get anything going smoothly done there, Kush, it would be against a depleted offensive line like this, but we'll see. In terms of the secondary for the Saints, Marshawn Lattimore's in. On the opposite corner side, they've been struggling, so we'll see if maybe we can hope for a breakout game for Kadarius Toney on that side. Maybe John Ross getting his first action in Giants blue. He can do something there. It's tough to find positives.
No, before you move even forward, all right, let's be honest. The chances of Jason Garrett and Daniel Jones using Kadarius Toney less than John Ross, bro. I could see that happening.
Oh, I could absolutely see that happening in the sense that Jason Garrett is just a man who refuses to break from his own principles, which I hesitate to even say the word principles because they're not principles. It's just a stupid mentality. But he refuses to shift off his rock here. And unfortunately, that's to the detriment of Kadarius Toney's even opportunity for production. It's to the detriment of Daniel Jones at this point. And it looks like that's going to continue until further notice. So against the Saints, not optimistic. He has good corner matchups in that sense, but I doubt he's going to get a chance to do anything with it. And even if he did, I'm not confident his route running is quite where it needs to be yet for that. I think if Kadarius Toney is going to find success this early in his career, it's going to be through designed opportunities, which Garrett refuses to give him. So again, not super optimistic. We'll hope for a win. You always go in any given Sunday. You hope for the Giants to come out with one, break the losing streak. But again, there's not a whole lot of reasons to be optimistic. The coaching has continued to be bad in every aspect, from game planning to scheme to clock management to penalties to anything you want to talk about. A lot of the players are not playing up to talent. We have so many bad injuries at this point. So many bad injuries. We've lost a bunch of guys. We lost the leader of our defense already, a defensive unit that wasn't playing up to par.
And now we know that's why we used 2 timeouts apparently in the second half, was because the defense was kind of confused after Blake Martinez went out.
I mean, at this point, it's going to be what it's going to be. And for the rest of this year, we're kind of just going to have to try and evaluate what we can evaluate moving forward. Because I don't want to get into the argument of, is the season over? Because it's not. It's not over yet. It's been 3 weeks. But I think it's fair to say at this point that the delusions of grandeur have passed. We'll say that. So at this point, I think the rest of the season will be best served trying to figure out what we can figure out and move forward as best as possible.
Got Manny Brito T6, the Saints fan, in here as we're playing his team. Sober Party and Frankie G also tuning in. Here's my thing with this Saints matchup. Week 1, before we played, I thought it was going to be, maybe it'll be easy. Maybe, they would still be out of their dome. Maybe Jameis is going to take a while to catch fire. And the exact opposite happened. I'm saying Jameis looks good. He's efficient. I'm saying he's very efficient in that offense.
He's playing good ball.
He's playing good ball, yeah, and they're playing in home. Even, they had to go out a little bit. Nah, they're back in the dome, which the Giants historically have a terrible time winning in, even when they put up 49 points. It just doesn't happen. It's almost like a curse. So you factor that in, then you factor in what this team has been, which is a bad team, and what the team the Saints have been, which is, for the most part, a good team. And I know they're missing people, but like you said, we can't get pressure on anybody. Like, our sack leader right now is our rookie, Azeez Ojulari. And even his sacks are like mostly not even off of legit pressure. You know what I'm saying?
And my sound might be a bit better now because I just realized I had not plugged in my microphone. So that was a big brain moment there. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Even our sacks aren't good sacks.
Right.
We just cannot generate pressure.
Do you remember if the one Leonard Williams sack was off of good pressure?
I'm pretty sure it was a coverage sack, yeah.
Okay, then.
I mean, it's just... At this point, I think a lot of it is mismanagement of the pass rush in general from a roster standpoint, in the sense that Pat Graham, early in the season you could say he wasn't being aggressive enough, and I think that's sort of been inconsistent with the aggression part of it. But at the same time, even when we're blitzing, we're not getting home, and that tells me it's less about the coaching and more about the players themselves. Because if you can't get home when you have a hat-on-a-hat advantage, you have a problem. And a lot of that could be on the linebackers coach and the D-line coach in terms of execution. That's possible. But it also could just be that we have no guys that are capable of winning 1v1s. And we're not really putting some of our guys that can do that in a position to. We're putting Leonard Williams on the edge, on the exterior, in a 5-tech, which just is not where he succeeds.
I want to ask you about that because obviously I'm not the X's and O's guys here.
We'll get to that in a minute here.
Yeah.
And then Dexter Lawrence, he's doing his best, but I think a lot of the most successful plays he had was when Dalvin Tomlinson was there and he could take his best reps on weaker guards. Not to knock down Dexter Lawrence, I still think he's a good player. I still think he very much has a place on this team, and I'll get to that in a second. But I think in general, and also that plus the lack of true investment in the edge position outside of Azeez Ojulari, who's doing okay. I think it's really starting to show in the complete total lack of pass rush, and it's been a problem for a while, but that problem has sort of been masked because we've been looking at all the other problems that were going wrong, and we've been saying, oh, the secondary is the problem. That's what it is on the defense. The linebackers aren't good. That's the problem. And now the secondary is playing well. When Blake Martinez was there, the linebackers were playing all right, and now it's really just so clear that the pass rush is so terrible. And I think at this point, it's sort of the idea of using your players right and then not having the right players. Because I personally am sick of seeing Leonard Williams against offensive tackles. Unless he's coming in on a stunt on an offensive tackle, I don't want to see it. He doesn't have the speed to beat to the outside, and tackles know exactly what he's going to try and do. So for me, I think in terms of the future and where we want to go with this front seven and where we want to go with this pass rush, the best move to me is during this offseason, we have 2 real high first rounders. And the nice thing as we get towards the beginning of draft season, as people like me start to scout college talent, it is becoming increasingly clear that this draft is rich in everything the Giants need, specifically at the edge position. There are a lot of really high caliber edge rushers in this draft, a lot of athletic freaks, a lot of guys the Giants really sorely need on the outside as a speed rushing threat. So with that being said, I think the best way forward for that unit is during this offseason to shift Dexter Lawrence and Leonard Williams into 4-3 defensive tackle positions, draft one of those generational edge rushers, whether it's a Kayvon Thibodeau, whether it's an Aiden Hutchinson, a Karlaftis, someone like that, put them across from Azeez Ojulari and have your pass rushing tandem there, and then have Dexter Lawrence and Leonard Williams be one of the most fearsome defensive tackle combos in the league. Because then you can put them on interior linemen where they thrive, and you're not going to be able to double team the best guy on the defensive line because you have a couple of edge threats who actually know what they're doing.
So before I let you go there, Alex, first off, once again, shout out to everybody in here. We got Joseph Balby tuning in, Super Taj World Evets. And then I'm going to ask you this question, then I'm going to get to Bark Nasty's comment. The question I was asking you is, can you explain the difference between where Leonard Williams was playing this year versus where he was playing last year? And does that have any effect, or is it the effect that we're seeing right now in terms of lack of pass rush from him?
Yeah, and I'll get a quick answer in on this, and then I'll let Alex talk so I can actually go get a drink. So that's a good opportunity there. Thank you, Alex, for popping in timely manner. But I think it's difficult to really say why a lot of things are happening this year with how they are. My best guess for why they've shifted Leonard Williams from where he was having success last year is they're trying to figure out their personnel now that they lost Dalvin Tomlinson, who was a key critical piece.
Wouldn't you say that's something you do in the offseason?
I'm sorry?
Wouldn't you say that's something you should do in the offseason?
I would say there's a lot of things that should have gotten done in the offseason. The point here being that Leonard Williams is now being moved around to spots that are not beneficial to him. It's difficult to say specifically if that's the exact reason for the lack of production, but it's certainly a part of it because he's not getting good matchups. He's trying to win out of a 5-tech, and that's just not him. Tackles are not scared of any sort of outside move. They're going to set their feet, they're going to tee off, and he's not going to get anywhere. And you see him just getting stood up right at the line. And you're like, where's Leonard Williams? There he is, doing his best in a position to fail every time. So I think until you put him back where he's meant to be, he's going to continue to struggle.
Okay, then while Nate gets his drink, I think that kind of answers your question there, Bark Nasty, where he says, I think it's all on Patrick Graham and scheme. We had plenty of sacks last year and lots of the same caliber coverage sacks. Secondary has not been good at all, and it is all as a package failing. I would say it is on Patrick Graham. I think that's basically kind of part of the answer that Nate gave, where Leonard Williams is playing out of position compared to where he was last year. And because of that, we've seen this before with the Giants, where we can't get pass rush. The secondary can't hold up coverage for, a long, long time. But yeah, go ahead though, Alex. I guess you could either start off with something with the Saints, or you could continue right off where we're going with. It's all up to you, man.
Well, I guess it would make more sense for me to give my first thoughts. I'm not really optimistic about this weekend. I think the Giants are going to lose. I predict the score to be like 24-10. If the Giants do score, in my opinion, it could be in garbage time. Obviously, history reflects on the fact that a lot of teams, including the Giants, have trouble playing at the Superdome. And for any baseball fans in here, I kind of compare it to the fact that the Blue Jays, they were so they were playing in Dunedin and all these other cities, and now they're back in Canada where they're supposed to be. And, they're playing well to a standard. Um, but my point is, there's an extra amount of excitement for the Saints players now that they're home and they're not playing in Jacksonville. But just some research I've done on the Saints, they are 32nd in pass percentage, so they do run the football pretty well. Alvin Kamara, Taysom Hill, something we couldn't stop the last time. A lot of the same players are actually on the Saints right now from the team we faced a couple of years ago. It's going to be, in my opinion, on stopping the run. For some reason, I have this just gut feeling that because of the low pass rate and because that there's like no Michael Thomas, that Patrick Graham is going to really like underplay the defense. He's going to like really say, oh, well, they don't have a number one, so let's just play some soft zone. I really don't believe in that. I just have that feeling for some reason. I pointed it out a couple of days ago, like, Colin Johnson, and nothing against Colin Johnson. He had a good week last week, 5 receptions, 51 yards. He's getting more reps than Kadarius Toney. And yeah, Toney, he was injured through the offseason, but, arguably Toney was ready for week one either way. Colin Johnson was inactive and he was still getting more reps. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. One thing, I don't want to take too much time, but that doesn't make sense to me at all is why is your 6th round pick from this year playing more than your 3rd round and 4th round from last year? It doesn't make a lot of sense. I thought we were not going to do this thing of putting what was it, like square pegs and like circle holes, whatever the hell he said, something like that. But
and also, he also said, don't tell me what you can't do, tell me what you can do, and that's exact opposite of what we were just talking about with Leonard Williams.
Yeah. What was I gonna say to finish off my point? Matt Parrott, you had the chance to play him against arguably one of the worst defenses we're gonna face, and really, it just shows that like the technique of Solder is just bad. I don't know how they're not picking this up. So that's really my point there. I don't see the Giants scoring a ton. I see Patrick Graham kind of, just not playing the defense not playing the Giants defense like they should against the Saints. We'll see what happens. In terms of Leonard Williams thing, like I kind of recognize that against good offensive lines last year, the only way he would get to the passer and the only way he would get to, if it's a run play, was through the tight end. One of the plays that stands out in his highlights, in his highlight reel, is when he dominates Nick Chubb in the backfield. It was Kareem Hunt or whatever. Yeah, Austin Hooper was the one blocking him. And a lot of the plays, I think he actually got a sack off of a tight end against Atlanta. So, I never really saw why Williams should, be on the outside. It doesn't make a lot of sense. And in my opinion, you could really argue that the talent was worse last year in terms of the edge rushing position. Now that it's a little bit of an upgrade with Ojulari, it's just less production. I think we're seeing a lot of what was masked last year because, of different things.
Before you do respond there, Nate, real quick, shout out to Sunday, a member in the chat. He says, hey, Hub, Nate, and Big Blue. Hey, everyone, what's up? Chance Foster says, we're going to lose with a blowout. Maybe. I'm not going to deny that. And then Bark Nasty says, I'll go out on a limb now. From what I'm seeing with some development, Aziz has the potential to be elite. It would be amazing to put someone across from him. I wouldn't say I've seen that yet, even though I believed it before he was drafted. I'm still have to see more before I say that. But yes, I think we all want to put one of these edge rushers coming out across from him in this upcoming draft.
And I'm going to take a quick segue, a little detour here. I promise it's going to get right back to Giants football. Sometimes something happens in your day-to-day life that's just a microcosm of everything else that's going on. And that, for me, was a moment ago when I walked to the fridge and there were no drinks left in there. That was sort of my life for the last few weeks. And that has been this Giants season.
Else, bro.
No. But that has been this season where I've taken this sad, non-frosty beverage, and that's what's going to sustain me for a while. Sad things going on with the Giants season in that same vein. But yeah, to respond quickly to Bark Nasty, I have liked what I've seen from Azeez Ojulari in the sense that he has been doing some good things. He's made a couple of nice plays. He's gotten some sacks. Problem is he's just incredibly streaky as a pass rusher. It could definitely be a case of rookie syndrome where sometimes he's there, sometimes he's not. We'll see what happens there. I admit I have yet to go down and break every single one of his sacks down. That's something I still need to do just so I can sort of see what he's doing differently on plays where he's getting to the quarterback and plays where he's just getting pushed right out of the play. That's something I'm going to look to do, and I will report back to you on that later. But for now, I think it's early to call what Azeez Ojulari is going to be in general yet. He could be something good for us. He could not. I think he's going to be, at bare minimum, a good complementary option, I would say. And I think if you can get that second great edge threat in there and then move to a 4-3, put him in that edge and 5 techs in the 4-3 on the defensive end spots, that's going to do all the more for Azeez Ojulari's production. And that's going to sort of build that pass rushing front that great Giants teams have always had. And in terms of linebackers, at that point, you're kind of just looking for Blake Martinez and Tay Crowder to be your Mike and your Will, and then you just got to draft a Sam. So with that being said, I think Azeez Ojulari certainly has the potential to be a great player on this Giants defense. It's just not quite sure yet what that's going to mean.
Mm-hmm.
And he says he's going to end up with a double-digit sack rookie season, so I mean, it's early to call that just yet. We'll see what happens, Brock Nasty. If he does, I'll be thrilled. That would be amazing.
Go ahead there, Al.
Real quickly, I forgot to add, and obviously there's no reason to compare the defenses, but Jameis Winston has been sacked 7 times in the last 2 games. And just to know, Eric McCoy's out again. Cesar Ruiz is not the same guy, apparently. I've read some blogs and stuff like that. He's not the same guy.
What happened to Ruiz?
No, well, I mean, it's not like anything happened to him. He just looked not great at the center position. So,
interesting.
Obviously, with McCoy's injury, they've moved Calvin Throckmorton, former Oregon tackle and guard.
Throckmorton?
Throckmorton.
Like my cousin that's
actual Throckmorton? The legend himself?
He's whoever you guys are referring to, whatever.
The question is, does he shred? Does he shred? If so, he is my cousin Throckmorton.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate that a lot of people aren't going to get that reference, but that is incredible to hear. Thank you for sharing that with us, Alex.
Yes. And then their left tackle, Teron Armstead, is out. But I don't know. I just feel like it just one thing about the Giants' defense so far. Obviously, we see O'Shane Ximines and Lorenzo Carter are not getting any pressure, getting any production. And I feel like they're all playing against like powerful left tackles. Why not put them on the right side? It's a wrong week to absolutely do that now because Ryan Ramczyk, who's a Pro Bowler, he's an All-Pro, he's going to be on the right side, and then Ojulari is going to go up against them, which, I feel like he's going to lock him down. But now, obviously, you could either switch Ojulari to face the left tackle, you could do the same thing, but someone other than Ojulari, just a period, has to step up. And, once again, with some offensive line changes for them, you have to make something happen, but it's the Giants, so it probably won't.
Yeah, and that speaks to what I was saying earlier, which is if there was an opportunity for the Giants to do something in this pass rush, and get something going, it would be this week. But like you said, I'm skeptical. They just haven't shown that it's something in the range of outcomes yet. I hope it is. It can't be a one-man show. It can't be Azeez Ojulari getting his 1 sack per game and then no one getting a pressure for the rest of it. Mm-hmm. It just can't be like that if you want to be successful in defense in the NFL. Jesus, I can talk good. But in terms of playing defense in the modern NFL, this kind of stuff just isn't going to cut it. I think in the secondary, we're playing fine. That wouldn't be nearly as much of a problem in a lot of people's eyes if we were getting to the quarterback. Because quarterbacks have all day to throw back there, and they end up shredding our DBs.
Yeah, shout out to Authentic in the chat.
Hey.
I saw a tweet from him that I'm going to check out afterwards where I think he gave his take on every red zone attempt from the Giants from the Falcons game. I definitely want to take a look at that. Just because, I don't know where anybody's getting film from these days since the NFL is just holding it. But shout out to Authentic, guys. Definitely go over there and check him out. He says an early lead will force Jameis into his old ways. Gotta capitalize in the red zone early. That's the thing,
a fair
though.
take.
What have you guys thought about our red zone offense this year, man?
Oh, is this an open question?
This is a very just open to any type of answer question.
Then how many minutes are we into this stream?
We're
24?
only 24. You gotta wait about 6 more minutes.
Yeah, okay. I'll hold it in then. It's not worth the wait. It has been very not good. That's what we'll say. It's been very not good. And I think the point to be made here is that we seem to be incapable of executing in the red zone in general, and that's what's killing us.
And it's
We
been
just
how many years has it been like that? 3?
enough, more than
Right.
enough. But with that being said, we just can't execute once we enter the red zone. And at that point, the offense just self-destructs. Seems like every time we cross the 30, boom, holding penalty. Boom, 11-yard sack. Just can't sustain the drive past the 30-yard line. And obviously, it's very difficult when you have no creativity in your passing game, because the entire problem with approaching the red zone from an offensive perspective is that there's just less space to work with. That's what makes it easier to play red zone defense than between the 40s defense. There's a whole lot less space to work with. The windows get smaller, and that's where it really matters to have an offensive coordinator and a passing game that knows how to create opportunities, how to create that open space that isn't just naturally there. Because when you're playing offense and defense on your own 35-yard line, obviously you can stretch the field. You have different windows to work with. You have a whole lot of leverage opportunities. Once you squeeze in towards the goal line, everything becomes compact, and it becomes a lot more difficult to find that open space. Good offensive coordinators who don't call curl routes every play and have more than a 10-yard out in their arsenal know how to capitalize on that. And you see a lot of creativity happening in that way, and you see rushing attacks that aren't just throw it right between the tackles, you know? And it's just frustrating to see that, but between that and the complete lack of execution, that's where you're going to get killed. We might be able to just float on offense in the red zone if we didn't have one of those two problems. If we weren't both failing to execute completely and in a terrible scheme. If one of those two things wasn't happening, maybe we'd be an okay red zone offense. But considering they're both happening at the same time, we are just self-destructing every time we pass the 30.
Mm-hmm. What about you there, Alex?
It's not just play calling, and I'll gladly call it on the play calling, but it's execution and that stuff. Whether Joe Judge or whoever's fault, I think it's Joe Judge and the players not executing, because remember, it's supposed to be a disciplined team right here. Holding, Billy Price, sack given up where Ben Bredesen is absolutely destroyed by Grady Jarrett. That just kills the tone of a drive. So, in terms of Barkley, in terms of what Nate was talking about, running between the tackles, I'm necessarily not a fan of what they've been doing in terms of having him under center, in terms of Jones, because in my opinion, it's pretty much common sense in this case. It's longer for Jones and the whole process to go to Barkley, and then by the time the offensive line, or I should say by the time Barkley gets the ball, the offensive line does not sustain blocks. Everybody's in the backfield, and Saquon's jiggling for a 5-yard loss. So they got to run shotgun. And once again, a lot of people talk about this, and I agree. Why don't you run it by Andrew Thomas? But once again, this is the Giants.
Well, in terms of the rushing game, I think even before you get to shotgun versus under center versus single back versus I versus all that other good stuff, probably the most frustrating thing about our running game to me is the fact that we have a great opportunity in the rushing game, in the sense that Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley together form a really difficult to guard rushing attack in the option game. And we saw that in Washington when we actually were running the read option. And you saw it succeed because now that you have Saquon on the field, they can't just play safe on DJ. And when they play Saquon aggressively, DJ can rip him off. When they play conservative on DJ, Saquon gets a bigger hole to work with, and that helps our offensive line to give him a gap, give him some space to work. And then you saw Saquon Barkley take off for a big one. Obviously, it's not quite what it could be if Saquon wasn't, whatever's going on with Saquon. I don't want to call it anything because we don't know what it is. But with the Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley aspect of it, you'd think that would be something we're working in. But we're not, and we're seeing our rushing game suffer for it. Because when you have the option, the entire point is to make it difficult for a defensive player, a linebacker, or an edge defender to commit. Because once they commit, you can burn them. And that's what makes it difficult to play defense against a mobile quarterback. For some reason, we're not using that. That is the best possible way to mask a poor run-blocking offensive line, which is at the moment what we have. And we're not using it. Even though we have used it, and it works, and it worked like 1 week earlier, who the hell knows?
Go ahead, Alex.
All right, so to kind of like ride off Nate's point here, here's my opinion of what happened. Jason Garrett and the whole offensive staff were kind of scared that Atlanta would figure them out. Well, you don't know that until you run one or two read option plays. Then you say, if they stop you, you say, okay, we got to get creative here, which is, something they aren't. Then if they don't stop you, you do the duo threat thing, obviously with Saquon or whatever. But something I would like to see from Daniel Jones, and honestly, I don't think it's going to happen. Once again, I said I'm not optimistic about this week, is that not just targeting Kenny Galladay, but we saw last week when he targeted him 2 penalties. Obviously, one was a freaking slant, which obviously that's not Kenny's thing, running slants. So, but going up top and trying to go for the ball. The league knows that Kenny's like a deep ball guy and all this other stuff. But that doesn't mean, they'll capitalize. It doesn't mean they'll get it right, because you see a lot of corners just tug. And, what happens, that's all part of being aggressive and not conservative. Whether the play is, incomplete or it's, a pass interference, it's still being aggressive. That goes with, throwing the ball downfield and doing all this other stuff. But my thing is with the penalties, it's extra. It's not just like a holding penalty. It's a pass interference penalty, which will get you to the spot of the foul. So if, it's a 5-yard slant, it's not much, but it's a first down. It's an extra set of downs. If it's at the goal line, you saw what happened last week. If it wasn't for that, I want to say it was a max protect, then he just threw it to Galladay in the end zone. He was being held, so it was pass interference. If it wasn't for that, I don't know that the Giants would have scored. That was the only reason that the Giants scored, not because of great execution or this, that, and the other thing. It was because of the fact that he threw to Galladay. The corner was not facing the quarterback. He was holding him, and they get a penalty, and the Giants score.
Well, that also would have been a touchdown had he not been held, but that's neither here nor there. The point here being, it's a perfect storm of everything going wrong for this Giants offense, and it's a lot of familiar problems. And now we're right back in the position we were in last year, where we're completely depleted in the receiving core. We're missing so many playmakers. Our offensive line doesn't look like they can pass block effectively. Although, let's be honest, they have not been the problem for this team, but they still aren't looking good. And I think at this point, it's kind of just, like I said earlier, it's time to take these games and evaluate what we can do versus what we can't do, and use that going into the offseason so we can try and make the right changes this time around. And I think for me, that would most likely involve a new offensive coordinator. There's some people that are still holding on to the let it happen, give it time, whatever. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of the fact that Jason Garrett seems like he refuses to change. And I think it's sort of an issue when regular-ass people like us can see exactly what's going on in the field, and Jason Garrett, who was a head coach in the NFL, he knows so much about football. When a guy with his sort of football knowledge and experience refuses to do not the complicated stuff that may be over our heads, maybe we just don't understand, but the simple things that we know for a fact should be getting done, that's the stuff that really frustrates me, and I think he's sort of the first guy that needs to be out the door.
So real quick, of course, let me adjust the chat. We got Chris D'Antan talking sports in here. What up, Chris? How you doing? Thank you for tuning in. And I'm sure everybody knows who he is. Go over there, check him out if you don't. NYG31. Sunday is in here as well. Mark Primetime, Josh Kalan, and I think I got everybody new that popped in. I got a couple comments here. This is from a little bit earlier in the stream. Authentic's talking about red zone attempts. He's like, this is 3 attempts that we had. On attempt 1, Billy Price whiffed a snap, I'm guessing. Attempt 2, Daniel Jones let the snap go through his hands. Attempt 3 was the Saquon leaping touchtout.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Sorry, you're gonna keep going through comments. I thought we were gonna talk about that. My bad.
You can talk about it if you want. I got no problem.
No, I just had a brief thing. Like for me, I unfortunately was screwed over by the gods of regional broadcasting, and I didn't get the Atlanta game, so I was only able to watch bits and pieces of it on crappy streams that kept falling off. So what I did see was not good. I will default to Authentic's analysis on the Falcons game.
Yeah, go ahead, Alex. You don't need to raise your hand, bro.
Yeah, you're not in class, bro.
Yeah. But in terms of if anyone's not getting the first thing, that was when Ben Bradison and Billy Price decided not to block Grady Jarrett. I mean, Billy Price actually fell on his ass. Number 2, just a suggestion, Nate. If you have not tried it already, my friend, he's a Steelers fan. He lives in New York, so obviously can't see the games. Try NFL Bite. See if that works this week.
I was on that. The streams kept going in and out.
And then Mark Primetime says, "What up? The Saints will be fired up this weekend after the long-awaited home game." That's true. And T6 as well as saying it's their first home game of the season. That's
Yeah.
going to say a lot. Bark Nasty says, "Sad thing is, I think we're an OC away from competing, but Gelman and Judge are going to stick it out, and the whole ship is going down. And Judge needs to cut out the dumb mistakes. He definitely needs to cut out the dumb mistakes. I think we could all agree with that. I really want to say we're an OC away too, but I mean, like, I don't know. What do you guys think? Are we truly just an OC away? I
No,
think there's
at this
more.
point, I don't think so.
Yeah.
There's so much other things going wrong at the
Exactly.
moment that I can't say we're any one thing away. I do want to respond to an interesting point that Authentic's bringing up, which is the RPO also isn't automatic. Danny isn't Lamar. He's slow to get to the top speed. I think we saw it versus Washington because we knew they were over-aggressive hitting the edge. All that is entirely true, but I think you also need to just look at it from the simple perspective of that's, the one thing that has pretty consistently worked for us, and we went away from it for no good reason. And I think the entire point of an RPO is when you have a quarterback that can run, and yeah, Danny's not Lamar, but he is more than a competent runner. I think the entire point of that is so you can get a hat-on-hat advantage, and you can have the numbers advantage in the box. And that's not necessarily every single play you need to be running it. It just needs to be something you're using as a threat. It needs to be something you can use to get in the defensive coordinator's head, make sure you're keeping them honest, and use that in other ways. Obviously, Jason Garrett is not a guy that has ever run a read option-based offense. I'm not asking him to. I'm just asking him to adapt a little bit and use it as a weapon so that the rest of the offense can open up for us.
Anything to add there before I go to the next comment, Alex?
Yeah, I agree with Nate pretty much 100%. In terms of the, are we an OC away? No, because, the defense, in my personal opinion, I've said this about 175 times over the past week. Last year's defense would have stopped Atlanta on their final drive. So despite the fact, backup quarterbacks, which Authentic, is basically the main pointer out of that point, for lack of better words. He has discussed that. But with Russell Wilson, the Giants stopped him on the final drive. They led Tom Brady down the field, but it was a bend but don't break, so they gave up the field goal, which made it an 8-point game. But last year's defense definitely would have done the job with less talent. But just like the mistakes, the defense, it got better, but there was still some points. And then Joe Judge, you can't be left, whether or not, you cannot be left with one timeout before the half. And obviously, the first reaction to what I think was like the challenge of that fumble, first reaction by a couple of fans was like, well, it may not, actually play into, what might happen at the end of the half. Well, let's be honest. They went down the field, they scored, and what happened after that is Azeez Ojulari forces a fumble, though it was only 7 seconds left on the clock. Maybe an extra timeout would have helped. But just the poor timeout management really it irritates me. It really does.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and disagree with what you were saying about last year's defense would have made the stop. I think in terms of the difference between last year's defense and this year's defense, last year Patrick Graham was sort of coaching that unit and trying to squeeze the most out of the players he had. And that worked very well for the players that he did have. And I think that sort of zone first, keep the ball in front of you mentality works only when you're not just completely depending on it. Because as we saw against the Broncos, they're going to rip you apart. If you only play zone, you only play that soft, non-aggressive mentality, you're eventually just going to get picked apart in the soft spots. So I think in terms of this year's defense versus last year's defense, really the only difference is the fact that we're using our players differently, and we have better players this year in the secondary with Adoree Jackson. And I think in terms of this year's defense, last year's defense, it's more of just a situational thing. Every game's been different, and the defense has kind of looked different every game so far this year in a lot of ways. With that being said, I don't know that I agree that last year's defense would have made the stop. I just sort of think if you're going to play Monday morning quarterback, there's a lot better things to think about.
I definitely do agree about like the game stuff. I wasn't necessarily talking schematically, but obviously in terms of like the production, because obviously once again, as I mentioned, it was less talent, but they did get more done in my opinion.
Yeah. With that said, last year's team was also entirely different from a mentality standpoint and a coaching standpoint.
Yeah.
The coaching is completely imploded so far this year on just every level. Pat Graham has sort of been in and out and dipping his toe in the water with aggression, and he can't quite decide what kind of defense he wants us to be. Jason Garrett has been Jason Garrett, and Joe Judge, we've all talked about it. We've beaten this dead horse. He's been a disciplinarian that can enforce discipline. So with that sort of being the overarching theme, I guess if you want to say last year's coaching could have gotten the stop, maybe I'd agree with you. If this year's players had last year's discipline, maybe I'd agree with that. And to everyone saying Ingram needs to go, yeah, we've known that for a while.
And just to add on one more point before Kush gets to the next subject, something I would like to add that kind of contradicts my point a little. If this was well, actually, no, this is a week 3 game. So ideally, last year's defense, if you want to put it into more of a perspective, would not have played the same way they did at the end of the year. At the end of the year, they found a grip. Beginning of the year, they really couldn't stop anybody. I mean, the Steelers game was meh. The Bears game was meh. You know, the Rams game, in my opinion, was like the first official game where they actually had some good, nice stops. But once again, that was week 3 last year. We got blown out. Yeah. So, yeah. But then again, there's, no excuse this year as why this team shouldn't be prepared.
And I think with sort of regards to the whole idea of we're not coming out and making these plays, there's 1,001 problems with the Giants right now. There really are. You can point the finger at literally anything because everything is going wrong. But I think the easiest thing to say is we're failing to make plays. It's just our playmakers aren't making those plays we signed them to. Adoree Jackson has been probably our best corner so far, honestly. He's played great football as far as I can tell, and he dropped a big one. Against Atlanta that would have at least given us a much better shot at winning that game. And I think that's just one of the many, many plays you can point to. With Saquon back, he's not looking like himself. Personally, I think it's a lot more.
I want you to continue with that point of certain players not showing up with the Adoree, with Saquon. Like, there's a couple, like, as much as I put it on the coaches, and I do think a lot of it, if not most of it, is on the coaches, there has to be some blame for some of these players as well.
Yeah, and that's where I'm going with this next, is that Barkley, as wonderful it is as it is to have him back, because it opens up so much for the offense just with him being on the field, I think until you get Saquon out of his own head, because that's what I think it is. I think it's a mental problem at this point, not a physical problem. Until you get him out of his own head, you're just not going to be able to see what the offense can do, because Saquon is such a huge part of that when he's healthy. So with regards to that, and Kenny Golladay, and the million reasons why he's not being productive, and Darius Slayton dropping balls, and Sterling Shepard trying to carry this receiving core on his back, and Evan Ingram doing Evan Ingram things on a weekly basis, it's just difficult to win games when you don't make game-winning plays. And Dan Orlovsky said it best when he said the reason the Giants just aren't winning right now is we're not making winning plays, and we need to stop making losing plays. And I think that's just the best way to put it at this point.
Go ahead, Alex.
Now I propose a question. I said this on Twitter. I got one answer, but depending on how you take it as a major role, a minor role, whatever, do we possibly see in the future Colin Johnson taking Darius Slayton's role?
No, I don't see it.
Nah, they're not the same archetype, really. They're not the same type of receiver.
I think if anyone's going to take Darius Slayton's role, it's going to be John Ross, and we will see starting this week if John Ross has a future with the team. Obviously, he's off to a rocky start in terms of the injuries, which were always his problem. I think if anyone's going to take Slayton's spot, it's going to be him. We're going to see what he can do. We're going to see what Jason Garrett lets him do, because one would think that with Daniel Jones being a deep ball first passer, he'd be a perfect fit. Obviously, there's a lot of guys you'd expect to be a perfect fit that so far haven't been. It's going to be interesting to watch. I do not think Colin Johnson's going to take Darius Slayton's spot. If anyone, again, it'll be John Ross. With Kadarius Toney stepping up, I expect him to sort of be Sterling Shepard while he's out. We're going to see what happens there. And Authentic says, in terms of people stepping up, he says someone's going to have to step up and be that RB2. I think we've got the RB2s. At this point, it's just a matter of blocking for him. Because an RB2 isn't going to be a guy that makes something out of nothing. An RB2 is going to be a guy that comes in and gives Saquon a breather, and you can have run blocking good enough to still be productive on the ground. And then he says, again, Colin Johnson fits the mold better for outside. Ross and Toney could fill that Shepard void. See, I just disagree. I think John Ross is on that outside vertical speed guy that can stretch the field. I think that's better sort of as a Darius Slayton role. I think if you want to argue about who's better in an outside role, Colin Johnson is certainly an outside receiver. That's not up for debate, and he's probably more suited to the exterior than John Ross is, but John Ross is still better for the Darius Slayton role, and that's where we happen to have on the outside. Kadarius Toney at this point is going to probably be our Sterling Shepard, I would think. That's what it looks like to me. We'll see, obviously, on Sunday. That's going to be the definitive. That's what it is.
Does Tony start this Sunday? Why do you say no, Alex?
Sorry, I missed question. Does who start?
Tony.
Oh, yeah, I think so.
Alex, why you say no?
Well, I mean, okay, let me. I'm going to rephrase my answer because I just thought about it for like 30 seconds. He's going to start, but Colin Johnson's going to get more involved than he will. I just have that just gut feeling for some reason. Like, obviously I said it, I think at the beginning of the stream, and I'll go back to it. They involved Johnson more than they did Toney. And, obviously Toney had that one big play where he's shaking and baking tackles and stuff like that. I'm not saying, once again, Colin Johnson's bad or anything, but, Colin Johnson,
they targeted Colin more than they did Galladay as well.
Doesn't make sense to me. And I just feel like for some reason, Authentic will probably agree with me that if Slayton had not gone out of the game, Slayton would have been the receiver of those targets. I can't talk.
Yeah, there's a lot of that going around right now, Alex. But in terms of these receivers, I think it's difficult to have the reason we're having so many miscommunications here is because there's two sides of this: what should be happening and what is happening. Because Jason Garrett refuses to use his players effectively. So if things were happening as they should be, maybe we'd be having a more clear, fluid discussion here. But we keep stop-starting because some of us are talking about what should happen, some of us are talking what is happening, and it's incredibly frustrating overall. But I do agree with what Authentic's saying, because he says Johnson is a big body who can do those flies and curls. I think in terms of, if you want to talk about what Slayton's role in an offense should be, he should be a field stretcher. And that's what I see John Ross as being. So that's sort of how I see it. But if you want to talk about an outside receiver in Jason Garrett's offense who's going to run curls, run flies, try and be a vertical possession threat, Colin Johnson. There you go. For me, it's just the never-ending battle between Jason Garrett and adaptation. He is a naturalist in the face of evolutionary theory, and he just refuses to change. He is a stick in the mud.
I will say it is kind of shifting from wide receivers to offensive line, because I think Daniel Jones let it slip. It was either in a press conference or an interview that our starting left guard for this game is going to be Matt Skura. What do you guys think about that?
I think Daniel's going to get killed. I think, yet again, it's going to be on Jones to try and put this team on his back and see if he can lift. It might at this point be a Sisyphus tale of rolling the boulder up the hill.
That means that has to mean we're starting Price again at center then, right?
It must. There's no other explanation.
Before you continue with whatever you're going to say, what else would you have done at left guard?
I would have jumped off a bridge. That's what I would have done. At this point, it just looks so bad in so many ways. Everything is going wrong at once. We're going to have to try and do just the best that we can at the offensive line. Jones is going to have to do the best he can to get the ball out on time, which would be a lot easier if it wasn't curl routes every time. It's going to kind of have to be what it is at this point. In terms of the optimal offensive line combination, there is no optimal offensive line combination because any possible combination is pretty terrible at this point. We've lost so many quality starters in Nick Gates, Andrew Thomas. I liked Shane Lemieux. Now we've completely lost Matt Pert in terms of just any sort of quality play. It's just bad at this point, looking like it's going from bad to worse. Now we have no receivers as well. It's very possible that we're going to see a few Ravens games from last year for quite a while, which is going to be yet again brutal to watch, but it's going to be what it's going to be.
Shout out to Lauren in here, of course.
Shout out to Hub with the cool jacket.
Right.
I see you, Hub.
Bro, I've had this for like 5 years.
Drip
now.
or drown, Hub. Hub said
I'm
drip
drowning.
or drown.
I'm drowning. Okay, I don't
Big
know
Blue
how
in
to
the
swim.
Bronx. Okay, I just need to say I saw Big Blue in the Bronx at Fan Fest, but I didn't realize it was him. And you having a twin is, I think, what I was really focused on.
Oh yeah.
I literally thought
That
you changed
messed with
jerseys.
my head. When
I
I
was like-
found out that Luka was his identical twin, that messed with me.
I literally said to him, "Weren't you just wearing a Jets jersey?" I thought it was like a joke or something.
I will
So
say
I'm
this.
sorry. I felt like so rude when I realized after. I was like, "Damn, I'm really rude."
I just expected Alex to be bigger. I don't know why.
That's what I was about to bring up,
Bro,
I'm
that's unnecessary, Kush.
no,
That's
I'm not even saying
unnecessary.
it. I was just like, oh, he's smaller than I expected. That's it.
Wait, Alex, how tall are you?
I'm about 5'7", 5'8".
See, that's the thing, Kush.
Oh, he's also
that's
younger than you, right?
Yeah, that's the thing, Kush. You just happen to look 5 inches shorter than you actually are, so you think everyone else is the same. I
guess.
I mean, look at Kush. Someone tell me you expect him to be a mountain in person.
I kind of did though.
Really? I didn't see it.
He said he was tall one time or
Oh,
something.
wow.
I
Yeah.
did not expect Bobby to be tall though, but I think everyone said that.
Oh yeah, Bobby's huge.
I was like, whoa.
Bobby, you can pick him out of a crowd a mile away. Bobby's
You know what I'm saying?
massive.
Authentic met him as well, bro. I'm speaking facts.
Yeah.
Now Jaden is taller than me. I was surprised.
Oh
by
yeah, I heard about that. That is
Yeah.
so crazy.
that
Wait,
man. He's a kid.
Jaden. Which one? Who's Jaden?
Jaden,
He is a difficult kid to
describe.
describe.
I think he had a Saquon jersey on. What up, word in here as well. But to quickly, and Lucas says, I hear y'all talking about me. You notice how he has a Yankees picture as his profile picture and not the Jets? Terrible, huh?
Man,
Anyway.
imagine why. I
Wait,
can't
so
think of a reason.
Luka is the Jets fan.
Yes,
Right.
he's a Jets fan.
Okay, so now I have it right. I was
Yeah,
like, where's
Luka is Jets, Alex is Giants.
But
L
yeah,
for Jets.
Alex
Oh.
and then
But
Lauren.
my
so what,
first
you
name
guys,
starts with an L, so I can't talk.
what you guys think about Skura being the potential as we hearing right now? Left guard started this week.
Well, I mean, obviously, a lot of people said before we signed it. Well, actually, no. When we signed that he couldn't snap a ball going back to last year. Apparently, he got better at that. But it's another O-line carousel, which is not good for a quarterback. So it would be a good time to be creative. But obviously, Giants are not going to do that. And no, Chris, you are bigger than 5 foot tall. So
Yeah, I saw that as well. KB, I never actually got a reference for his height until he posted a clip of him playing flag football, and immediately my response was, so that's how tall KB is.
I'm
Nah,
telling you, bro. If
he's
we were to
Darren
play
Sproles
flag football and I
reincarnated.
like sneeze on this man, he'd break, bro.
he is Darren Sproles on the flag football field. That's just what it is with KB.
He's better than I would be, though.
Yeah, go ahead there, Luke.
I mean, you just got to
almost
keep
called you
working on the
Luke,
throw
bro.
motion. You'll get there.
Go ahead there, Alex.
Sorry, I
Are you
just
taking a
derailed this
sip?
whole live stream as soon as
No,
I
it's all
came
good.
on.
Well, I
It
mean-
wasn't really on the tracks to begin with, let's
I was
be
like,
honest.
so how tall are you guys?
Yeah,
Are you an identical
Nate
twin?
and me have been stumbling and mumbling all.
Oh yeah,
most of this
it's
stream.
been one of those
But,
nights. Been one of those weeks.
It's one of those seasons.
Yeah.
That's facts. That's facts.
Unfortunately, but yeah, I pretty much stated my point already. It's another O-line carousel, and I think Skura has a chance to be better than Bradison, but it's not going to be by much.
Not by much, really. I actually think Bradison was good. I mean, not great. He wasn't
mean,
terrible though.
I've lost all optimism in this offensive line in general. Like once Nick Gates went down, that was the beginning of the end. Let's be honest for this offensive line, because after that,
Peace out,
everything
Chris.
just went south. Chris is heading out. Well, good to see you while you were here, man. But once Nick Gates went down, everything sort of just tumbled down around Jones. More injuries came. Things got shifted around. We're messing with some bad stuff now. It's bad. I've lost all optimism. Maybe Skura will play better than Bredesen. Maybe he'll play a million times worse. Who knows? Who cares? Let's just hope for the best.
And then, yeah, Lauren, what do you think about Skura being our lifeguard this week?
Yeah, it's just like I feel like I'm used to it now. Like another week, another starting left guard, and
Hey, Thomas has thrived in 3 weeks with 3 different left guards.
yeah, honestly, he has, which is crazy because I feel like I was certainly freaking out after the preseason game, but after that, it's been nothing but smooth sailing, as they say.
Listen, man, I
And,
told y'all Thomas was gonna be that guy.
That was the most
He is
like,
that guy.
annoying thing I ever said. Nothing but smooth sailing. But yeah, honestly, I'm just like, wow, this team is so bad. This offensive line like continues to get worse when it wasn't at a good point to begin with. And my problem with the Giants, well, my problem with this offensive line is this. I thought they were going to address the offensive line in the draft, right? And Dave Gettleman told us, oh, we got a lot of faith in this group, blah, 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 blah. Yes, he can't control injuries, right? It's so unfortunate that Nick Gates is, out for the season at the least. And Lemieux is out for, they're saying like the season, maybe not, but it's looking like it's going to be the season. But he was scrambling at the end of camp to like sign Bredesen and stuff and make these trades, get Price. I felt like it needed to be addressed earlier. Like, don't tell us that the offensive line, you believe in them, and then scramble to get these guys at training camp, at the end of training camp. Yes, I know it's depth and stuff, but passing on Slater seems like a huge mistake as of right now. I wanted them to draft Slater there. It's just crazy they didn't address it in either the second round or the third round. Like they didn't address it at all in the draft.
I feel like the biggest mistake was not just Slater, but Aaron Robinson, who isn't even seeing the field. When you had a guard in Cleveland there, and then even if depending on how you look at this, there was a reason Trey Smith fell, but like we had multiple chances to take him, and then we took Gary Brightwell, who's not really being used that much as well.
It's just like, don't tell us.
Oh, Nate, your mic isn't working or something, bro.
I think you're muted.
Whoops, my bad. Sorry, my fault. I think for me, just with what Lauren's talking about, the fact that we waited so long to address it, it's just because Gettleman kept trading his way out of opportunities. Not in the sense that he's trading back. I mean, trading his way out of opportunities in the sense of, oh, the guy I wanted just got taken. I'll wait till next round. And then next round never quite came around for that one player they were looking for. And they lost out on the receiver they wanted, so they didn't take a lineman in the first round. They lost out on Landon Dickerson, so they didn't take a lineman there. They lost out on a bunch of other depth guards on the interior they wanted, so they didn't take anything. And at this point, I mean, yeah, exactly. You're sort of just looking at the results of this and looking at Gettleman refusing to bite the bullet, and that's where we are now.
Shout out to Durant Osman for the $5 super chat. He said, for the number one offensive line in the league, what percentage of the cap would you dedicate to the O-line? Whose contract would you waive to accomplish that? And he says no cap pen. I'm not sure what the last part means. I don't think he necessarily needs to have a big part of your cap.
He means no cap penalties, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, bet. I'll just say I don't think he necessarily needs
to. Like no lie.
I thought he was saying that too. I was like, no cap. What do you mean by no cap?
That's his nickname for you, Pen. Yeah.
Yeah, right. But I don't think you necessarily need to be spending a lot on the offensive line for it to be good. I really do think it goes back to what we were just discussing, which is having a good draft for your offensive line. But I can't really put a percentage on it, to be honest with you. What about you guys?
Look at how fast the Chiefs rebuilt their offensive line though after the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Like, it's possible.
Sure. Yeah.
You're smart about it.
And that's just what it comes down to is I think we've been seeing for the last couple of years with a lot of different examples how fast the Bills rebuilt their offense.
Colts.
How fast the Colts built their offensive line. How fast the Chiefs built their offensive line. And most importantly, the fact that every single year the Saints are showing the world that the salary cap is a figment of our imagination.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of how badly you want to accomplish these things. And I don't know whether it's an overconfidence issue, whether it's a lack of creativity in the front office, whether it's a lack of just having the absolute will to get it done. I'm not going to take no for an answer. If it's just the idea of if you can't have your first option, you need to take some option, and Gettleman just has refused to do that. I think at some point, Gettleman is just going to get his ass kicked for nickel and diming the offensive line. I mean, I see this stuff constantly. People saying, the Giants address the offensive line every season. How is it still bad? Well, we've drafted one guy in the first 2 rounds in the last 6 years. That's how. And the big free agent signing was Nate Solder. 2? Oh, yeah, Will Hernandez. Thank you. So 2 guys in the first...
Wait, 3.
Who's the third?
Eric Flowers.
No, he's 1 year before that.
Oh, wait, it really went by that fast?
Yeah, it went by that fast.
I feel old.
That's exactly where I'm drawing the line at Eric Flowers, for good reason. That's what I'm saying. We've drafted 2 guys in the first 2 rounds, and one of them was a second rounder in the last 5-6 years, and people are saying how much we're investing in this offensive line. We're really not. People are saying that because we keep getting new faces in because we're shopping in the bargain bin.
Facts, bargain bin. I just don't like the scrambling. Like, don't say, don't tell us, oh, we have a lot of confidence in this O-line. And then once the end of training camp comes and cuts are starting to come, we're trading for guys who are going to basically be cut just so they don't sign somewhere else. Like, don't tell me, though, that the line is okay. Like, that annoys me.
Well, Gettleman is clearly, at this point, and he has for a while, about a lot of different things, lying to cover his ass because he doesn't have a plan. His plan in this offseason, in the draft, clearly was targeting a few guys, and once those guys got taken from him, there was nothing left for him to do. And he sort of just folded on that. And, and now we're dealing with the after effects. Alex, you want to jump in?
Just go ahead, bro.
You don't need to raise your hand. It's an open discussion.
I just want to be respectful. I know this is not a classroom. So I'm actually going to contradict myself in two ways. I'm going to rip Gettleman, and then I'm going to try to make a positive spin on this, which you really can't do, but I'm going to go ahead and do it. So,
# respect the effort.
So, in terms of, obviously you guys are talking about the offensive line scrambling, going for the bargaining bin, whatever. It's not just the offensive line. I think it's just a whole team philosophy. Like, a couple of years, and listen, they could be great players, and I would be glad to be wrong. Obviously, one of them really hasn't shown up this year. He drafted guys like Dexter Lawrence, was talking about these big, meaty guys on the defensive line. What I looked at is San Francisco in 2019. They had Eric Armstead. They had, DeForest Buckner. Some of those guys, it wasn't, the scheme or anything. I mean, you basically say it's a scheme or whatever the point you want to make. My point is that they were under 300 pounds. They were able to do both sides of the ball. DeForest Buckner and Eric Armstead. Armstead's still there. DeForest Buckner's in Indianapolis right now. So that's just where it's the philosophy of just building this team that's really, they're in a time warp, and you can't get out of that time warp unless you fire the general manager. And I've been kind of shading that stuff, but yeah, look how the Browns and the Chiefs rebuilt their offensive lines, right? The Chiefs, obviously, once again, just kind of like Nate said about the Saints, the figment of our imagination being the salary cap of the NFL. What was one team? Oh, for the Browns, they had a criminal at left tackle, and then the following year, what happened was they draft Wills, they do all these moves, and then look, 1 year under Stefanski, it's just good. It's just almost perfect. One of the best in the league. Now I forgot what. Oh yeah, the positive spin. So the positive spin.
Don't forget the positivity. Can't forget that.
Yeah, the power of positivity. So the power of positivity in this case is if the Giants. Now obviously we know about the trade down. They didn't select Slater. Gettleman traded down because his guy got taken. Now how could you put that on a positive spin? There's one way to do it. If the Giants select Evan Neal any other tackle in next year's draft. Now, I'm not saying that will, completely fix the O-line, do all these other things, but if Evan Neal proves out to be better than Rashawn Slater, that's the only way there's a winning strategy. Other than that is losing.
Alex, you hurt my soul with this, and I'll say why. Because Evan Neal is... So I recently started my prospect scouting, and I usually just start at the top and work my way down. Evan Neal was the first guy I looked at. And you hurt my soul because I promise you, unless we just completely just flop the entire season like we have so far, we are not getting Evan Neal. Because Evan Neal is so incredibly good. Evan Neal is an absolute freak of nature. For those who don't know, those who don't follow college football, those who aren't super into scouting or just haven't started yet, Evan Neal is the left tackle of the Alabama Crimson Tide. He is also 6'7", 360 pounds, and he can box jump almost my entire height. He is so freakishly athletic and strong, and his technique is pretty far advanced for a college tackle. He is essentially the Quentin Nelson at left tackle of the last few years. That is a guy who, if he can continue to be coached up better, could be a franchise-changing name. And the fact that you're talking about him in Giants blue hurts my soul, because I just know somehow that it's not going to happen, and it hurts me to hear you say that, because if we did, no matter how committed you are to Andrew Thomas, I promise he's going to right tackle and Evan Neal is going to left tackle. for those who don't know the name, I promise you will know the name. Evan Neal's going places.
Well, before we talk about, go ahead, Alex. Yeah, go ahead.
So, two quick points. Someone did also bring up, we're 0-3 and could be bad the next 8 games, so there is a chance. But
There very much is. I just hope not.
yeah. In terms of, what the hell was I going to say? In terms of, possibly, maybe not Evan Neal, maybe another player, but that's kind of the winning strategy. And I kind of forgot where I was going with this, which is the unfortunate part. But you know what? I'll let somebody else take the microphone.
Yeah, I was gonna say. So shout out to Kid Blue, of course, in here.
What's up, guys?
Go
Aaron
ahead.
Sproles
Check
himself.
it out. Subscribe to him.
What's
He
going
still has yet
on,
to
guys?
post any flag football highlights, is because we all know he's definitely trash.
I
at it.
have my flag football team is we're like recording film more consistently, and they're just sending it to me tonight
Sure.
actually. So
Come
I'm
on,
gonna post my
KB. We
highlight
need these
from yesterday.
highlights.
Had
Sure.
a
We see
wheel
the
route. I
blazing
almost took
speed.
to the house yesterday.
Almost, huh?
Almost, yeah. I got by the safety guys.
Someone DK'd Metcalf to you?
Yeah. No, he was ahead of me, so he was basically playing deep
Oh yeah, the angle.
safety. I was on the wheel. I was going down the sideline. He kind of connected to me, so.
Or did Will
So-
Hernandez commit a holding penalty?
I think the thing we need at this point is some of us have seen the highlights, right? Obviously, we'll get the full reel at some point. What I really just need to see is you versus Kush in a 40. That's what I need at this point.
All right, he'll beat me in a 40.
That would complete my football experience.
And then the one-on-one tackle drill where you start at
Yeah,
your back.
No,
tackle drill.
Hub
What is that
KB
called?
Oklahoma.
Oh,
Okay.
come on, let's go straight to
Okay.
Oklahoma. He said he would put
Okay.
me in the ICU. I want to see that.
Listen, bro. You got me in speed, but that's about it, Chief. All right, I could be a lead blocker.
okay.
I could be a lead blocker. if
There
you
we
need
go.
me
There.
to.
Let's use our
Kush at
our
fullback?
powers for good. Okay.
Listen,
let's-
I
That's a
told
big
y'all,
fullback.
When I was on my high school football team for like a couple of months, basically one season, I was a tight end / fullback. All right.
Ooh.
So
Nah,
your
but
boy-
for those that don't know, KB plays competitively in flag football. I've seen like 2 plays of his. Dude's fast.
There's more
KB is
coming. There's more coming.
fast.
I'm getting the highlight
What's
reel.
the league? Do you play against other teams in your area?
Yeah, it's Orlando League. So we're right now. This is like competitive / recreational. It's not a big league, but our team is gonna be moving up to a big league.
Dylan
I
Osmond.
didn't realize it was that competitive. That's sick.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
That's
I
fun.
I would go so far as say I don't think there's a Giants YouTuber that KB wouldn't juke out of their shoes.
Yeah, probably not.
Maybe that's a video idea for you.
Well,
Do
I
I
was gonna
juke every YouTuber out of their shoes?
definitely week 18. I'll see you
Of
guys
course,
there.
if you
Listen,
get a little
bro.
too cute, Pest might put you in the ground.
I'll
That's
bring
very
my, I'll
possible.
bring my running shoes and we'll be in the parking lot. And you'll probably get past me, but I won't be juked, bro. I won't be.
Oh,
But I
juked.
won't be
-3 degrees outside.
He's just
Yeah.
gonna stand still, so there's a loophole.
That's what I was
there,
gonna say.
right?
I was gonna stand 15 yards back.
Can't break your ankles if you don't move your ankles.
He's gonna give me that Patrick Graham cushion there. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly, bro. But what I was gonna say is before we talk about Evan Neal, let's talk about somebody that may or may not work out in Isaiah Wilson. Also a big dude. KB, what do you think about him? And then I guess we'll go around.
I'm not gonna put too much stock in it because as Giants fan, well, as NFL fans in general, this doesn't just happen to Giants fans, but like NFL fans in general, when there is a desperation at a position and we bring someone in that was out of the league and coming back that once was good and he was a highly regarded prospect, our instinct is to think, man, he's gonna be the future. Now he's a former first round pick, and I'm not gonna go that far yet. I'm not even gonna listen. They didn't even make it to the active roster yet, so we'll see what happens. I would love for him to work out, man. How like you said, Kush, how poetic would it be for him to make it onto this team and have a good career, especially with his tackle tandem teammate from Georgia,
There's a
big
mouthful.
dog. Yeah, Andrew Thomas. They were a duo in college. Now they're potentially a duo.
And
in
he will
New
be
York,
yet
so-
another hometown kid that we have. on this
Exactly,
team.
another
yeah.
hometown kid and a guy that was, I guess, not necessarily misunderstood, but a guy that just committed some wrong actions and was not totally motivated in football and getting some redemption here with the New York Giants and working out. So I would love for that to happen.
And before we keep going on that, Kush, I told you I'd probably be here for about an hour. Now that we have added in 1 KB, we'll subtract 1 Nate. Been good to talk to you guys as always. Good to see you. Keep it going, guys. Keep the faith.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yes,
Peace out,
sir.
Nate. Thank you for calling in. I guess I should say, guys, check out Nate Talks Football over there on his channel. Yeah, go ahead, Lauren. Isaiah Wilson, your thoughts and whatnot.
Oh, I was just waving bye to Nate, but just real quick, I'm just going to echo the same thing that KB said. Like, he's on the practice squad. It's like the most low risk thing you can do to bring him in.
Well, there's
give him
so
a
many people against the move, even though he's just on the practice.
Pat
Yeah, that's what I
Leonard,
don't understand.
Pat
Everyone's
Leonard,
like,
Pat Leonard.
he's on the practice squad. Like, what is the risk here? Like, give the guy a second chance. You know, just you're giving him a second chance. You're seeing what happens. It's the most low risk thing you can do. You're not giving him this giant contract. He's literally on the practice squad, and you hope there's upside. And with how many injuries we've seen, and how many different left guards we've seen so far this season, what is really the negative side of this? Like, what's the worst that can happen?
There's nothing. There's no negatives. That's the thing.
Exactly. So I don't know why people are
and,
like,
and on top of that,
"Oh,
he's
good
never.
move."
He was never looked at as a bad, like a toxic locker room guy. Anyway, he was just in his own world. So I people like are against this because he was cut from the Tennessee Titans because of his motivational issues and off the field problems or whatever. But it didn't look like he was ever a problem inside the locker room. So it doesn't look like he's going to be a risk even in the locker room. So I don't really know where this hate comes from. For him, it feels like some people can get redemption and some people just can't. It just doesn't make any sense.
That's what I don't understand. Why are people so against second chances? Like,
look at Richard Sherman, man. The guy just got signed to the reigning Super Bowl champions after the incident he had.
Yeah, it's just like, honestly, I also just think I feel like we don't talk about the mental health part of the game a lot, and like just what goes on with because players are people, and I feel like we don't talk about that enough, and like we don't know what's going on in their personal lives, and the Giants probably know more about his situation than we do, obviously. So like, I don't know, just like I feel like people are so easy to judge, and it's like you don't know what has gone on with this guy. So
right,
yeah, just I don't know, be nice, everyone.
I agree though, but go ahead there, Alex.
If he was signed to the active roster, and if he was signed to a big contract, I would see the causes for concern. But I don't see the causes for concern. I mean, the Giants are literally down offensive linemen left and right, and he signed to the practice squad. And I really would have wondered if Pat Leonard, what his takes were, and if he was an NFL writer, not a Giants writer. I apologize for that. Just give me 1 second.
Yeah, I didn't know people still had landlines. I'm gonna keep it real with you. While that landline is ringing, I guess.
I know I don't answer mine either. It's like never anything important.
We've been trying to reach you about your car's extended warranty.
Yeah, exactly. That's all they're trying to do on a landline.
Before I was brutally interrupted,
does your car need extended warranty though?
What was the question?
She got the hook.
Isaiah Wilson.
Oh, so in terms of Isaiah Wilson, I would have. Well, actually, I would like to see what he said about Johnny Manziel, Josh Gordon, and Antonio Brown in terms of Pat Leonard. But you know what? We'll see what happens. He's not even on the active roster yet. He is yet to get in football shape, from what I hear. And Mark Primetime 21 with a nice comment. He could take DJ to one of his parties. Yeah, if it's held in Brooklyn, by me, I'll try to get him with like a fake ID, and all that stuff. Because he actually did go to school 15 to 20 minutes away from me. So
that's cool.
That's pretty cool. I could probably try and get in by just being like, "Hey, I'm a reporter. If you don't let me in, I'm gonna write a scandalous report about this entire thing." So, yeah, what is it called? When it's written slander, it's libel or something. Like, listen, bro, everybody does. You think I won't do it to
blackmail?
Blackmail. But yeah, no, KB. Since you also just popped in, I mean, the initial point of the stream was to talk about the Saints game, and obviously we got around talking all about the Giants. But go ahead and talk about the Saints game, man.
What's there to talk about at this point, man? Listen, we just got the news that Terron Armstead and Eric McCoy are not going to be playing in this game, and they are really, really good offensive linemen. Terron Armstead been a really good offensive lineman for years now. Eric McCoy is just getting into the league and taking over the league as an offensive lineman, and somehow, some way, I'm still terrified of their offensive line. That they got two of their stars out
because we can't get pressure on anybody.
On top of they still have Cesar Ruiz and they still have Ryan Ramczyk, who I am very salty about from 2017. So it's gonna be I'm not excited for this game at all. I started Alvin Kamara in my fantasy league, so that should be fun. And Yeah, I mean, I don't really know what else to say about that.
I mean,
about
I
the
guess
Saints game. I
I
don't
guess,
see us. What I if you guys want me to come on here and give some sort of reason of hope of us winning this game, I will not give that to you. I'm sorry, I can't. We're not going to win this game. If we do, then that's great, and I'll
Yeah,
come
let's
out.
not get our hopes up. Like, why would we want to?
I am not get right.
Only
I got
hurts.
my hopes up for with good reason. I got my hopes up for the Atlanta Falcons game, and that brung me down. So I'm not going to be brought up by the New Orleans Saints.
I'm
who
on
are
the same
killing
page,
people.
KB. I'm on the same page.
Exactly.
I was gonna say, I mean, we could go, I guess, offense versus defense and whatnot. How would you expect our offense to perform against the Saints defense? Obviously, it relies a lot on Jason Garrett. Do you expect to see more Kadarius Toney, or is it just gonna be another one of those games where it's like
They
he
said
should be used, but he's
Kadarius is
not?
going to be used more. Joe Judge said, "Listen, I
What's the
when it-
exact quote?
I think the exact
Or
quote.
paraphrase or
Somebody
something.
quoted it. Somebody quoted it. I couldn't.
It was
Go ahead,
like
Alex.
the exact
it was
quote.
like that he's playing more of a role every week, and that's not going to change this week or something like that.
Why? Like, really?
So that
why
sounds
is it-
exactly the same.
So he's
What
going to
do you
go
mean
from
he's
2
gonna be involved
receptions to
more?
3 receptions. Is that
Yeah,
is
like
that what we're
what?
saying?
That sounds like,
I
oh,
guess
we're just
so.
gonna move forward the offense as we've been doing before.
Well,
I don't
here's one thing. We said this on the Young Guns a couple days ago. When it came to the Saints defense, they run man defense. Now, like I said, I don't have a lot of positives in this game, but the one thing I will tell you is that Daniel Jones cooks man defense. He's been a lot better against man defense than zone in his career so far. And one really big aspect to his game is beating up on man defense. Now, it all depends on what routes are schemed up that Jason Garrett has. But if Daniel Jones has the ability to audible at the line and get some man beating routes like quick outs, mesh concepts and stuff like that, rub routes, things like that, stuff to beat man, because man is a lot more vulnerable than beating zone. So if you can, establish some rub routes, get some crosses in there, meshes, things like that, you can do to mix up a defense. And when they're playing man, you could definitely be successful with that. So that's one thing I'm holding on to, is that Daniel Jones is a lot better against man, and the Saints are a very rare man defense. So I'm looking forward to that, but let's see if he balls out or not. I don't know. But that's the only thing I could say about the offense versus Saints defense.
I just have a feeling Alvin Kamara is like gonna go off this game. I really.
Well, what was it back in 2017 when we played them? Didn't he go off against us? Or was it
Yeah, like
2018?
3 touchdowns and like 160 something rushing.
Yeah, I'm in a $50 buy-in league, and I have him on my team. So I hope he balls out. Sorry.
Wow. Wow.
Sorry.
Who is
Oh wait,
this guy,
speaking
bro?
of fantasy football, do you guys know? Like, wait, do you guys know who's leading our YouTubers league?
I think you are.
Wait,
Was that a humble little brag right there? Do you guys know who's winning our league right now?
Maybe you're just like, I think
it's me.
Hold up. Let me just check right
I'm
now.
pretty sure she's like 3-0 right now.
I'm
pretty
not
sure
I'm probably 1 and 2 because I didn't set my lineups for week 3.
I'm 1 and 2 as well. And last week I scored like 100, like almost 160 points.
Oh no,
almost.
I am
I was
actually
like,
2 and 1
yes.
somehow.
Wait,
I
KB,
survived
yeah, I think
somehow.
you had the highest scoring week last week.
Yeah. Because Saquon had an unbelievable. Like, I didn't think Saquon was gonna get those numbers, but he did.
The first week I remember in the report, like Kush had the lowest points or something, like 47.
Yeah. I will say, Sal Lorenz says Isaiah sounded serious about changing his ways, but man, can we really trust a kid that young? I mean,
He's not that young.
he is young
Yeah,
in the sense
I
that
mean,
like
he's not that. Yeah.
He's
I mean,
like
she's
my
right.
age, I think.
Right. She's not. She's right. I mean, he's not that young to be like changing it, like have that kind of immature
Yeah, let
mind.
me look up
I mean,
his. I think he's 22. Hold on.
what I will say is that I mean,
Yeah, he's 22.
there's no reason for us not to, because once again, it's not that big of a risk that we're taking. You know what I'm saying? Rick says, you guys are ripping Judge. What do you say to the fact we have lost only by a combined 4 points in the last 2 games? I say
that is the reason
I
why
say
we're
Rick-
ripping
Can't say
Judge.
that this year. Can't say that this year.
I say, Rick, you're kidding me? I know you're watching the same games that we are, and I know that you see the same mistakes Judge are making that we see.
But that is
Last
the
year you could say
exact
that.
reason. That is the exact reason we're ripping Judge, is because we're losing. Like I said, I keep going back to 2014, 2015 New York Giants with Tom Coughlin. He had the same problems. He was losing game by. Remember, I think it was 20. It had to have been 2015. Well, I think that was Preston Parker days and stuff like that. We were losing games every freaking game was to a field goal or we were losing by 1.2 points. And that's what really got Tom Coughlin fired because he kept taking the field goals. He kept, he never went forward on fourth down. He kept playing not to lose the game, wound up losing the game. That's what's happening to Joe Judge right now when you have no faith in your players. And that's why we're ripping Judge, because we're losing by a combined points of 4. It's the way we're losing those games by a combined 4 points. That's why. I hate playing hypotheticals. I don't do hypotheticals, but we could have won those games had we been more aggressive and bet on our own players. We have to, as a head coach, you got to be willing to say, my players are better than yours. And on fourth down, if we reach that fourth down and 3 in the first quarter, like we had in that last game, I'm freaking go for it. It was like fourth down and goal from like the 5 or something like that. So at that point, you gotta have the trust in your players, and Joe Judge doesn't have that.
Go ahead. Anybody else that wants to respond to Rick?
Lauren?
Oh, yeah. Just I think the main thing is, like KB said, playing not to lose. Why are you punting from the 39? I know we've said that probably like 50 times this week.
Yeah, that was ridiculous.
It's that Joe Judge is supposed to be this hard coach. We're gonna nail the fundamentals. He doesn't talk like
yes,
that, that's my.
That's how he kind of presents it.
We're gonna nail the fundamentals.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Week 1, we're gonna miss a ton of tackles. Week 2, we're gonna jump off sides on the final field goal with no time left. Week 3, we're gonna punt from the 39-yard line. In between that time period, I'm also gonna throw a challenge flag on a scoring play just because I'm frustrated. But like I know they review it, and now we lose the timeout.
Yeah, he is so terrible with timeouts.
Terribly in the last game, like just really manage them. Like, what are you doing terribly? And yeah.
This man really took like 2 timeouts in like the third quarter. I was like, are you kidding me? Like,
it's
even
like
if
he's not doing what he preaches.
Check this out. I heard people were talking about, oh, he did it. Well, he did it because the defense wasn't set. I would take the penalty. I would take the freaking penalty. I'm not wasting my time. You know how close that game was the whole entire game? You think I'm gonna waste even one of my timeouts before the fourth quarter? You're crazy. I'm taking the penalty. How many penalties this team had already? Who the hell cares? I'm waiting until the end of the game to use my penalty to use my timeouts. How are you going to use 2 of your timeouts in the third quarter, and then you got like 2 minutes to drive down the field, and you only have 1 timeout left?
Can I say something honestly?
Yeah.
I feel like the thing with Joe Judge is when he was hired and when Jason Garrett was hired, they were like, yeah, Jason Garrett is a great guy. I forget who said this. Maybe it was on Good Morning Football or something. I really don't remember. Basically, people were saying Jason Garrett is a great guy to be there for Joe Judge and, support him. Joe Judge, he hasn't been a head coach before. This guy's been a head coach. He has experience. But now I think we're seeing that, Jason Garrett isn't a good guy to, be there and support Judge because Jason Garrett's play calling is terrible. But I think it also shows that Joe Judge maybe isn't ready to be a head coach. Like if he's relying on his coordinators to help him and, support him and kind of lead him through the way, maybe he's just not ready to be a head coach, or maybe he isn't a good head coach. I know I'm being very critical right now, but I'm frustrated.
You're not wrong, though. You're not wrong. I mean, he's only won 6 games so far as a head coach. And listen, we gave him last year as a kind of, I guess, a preseason year, a cushion, right? Just show me what you got to begin with, because obviously we had COVID, we had no preseason, all that stuff. I mean, we've heard that for a year now. We don't need to get into that. But this year was the year of actually competing, right? This is the year that we weren't supposed to start 0-3. Things were supposed to be changing. If we're going to lose games like Denver, because Denver seems to be a good team this year, if we're going to lose a game like Denver, it had to have been a close, hard-fought game, and they bullied us in week 1. And then Washington, we really executed ourselves. I mean, Washington, although I give the respect to them, they scored 31 points. They had themselves a good game, but we really shot ourselves in the foot in that game because of so many missed opportunities. And then especially not capitalizing on something like a missed field goal because your guy is also, perfectly timed snap, whatever you want to call it. You shouldn't even be jumping anyway. But, I mean, you screw yourself like that, and it all falls back on the head coach, man. You have to have your players ready and prepared, and he just hasn't had that. He's been trying to get people pumped up in these press conferences, and you really need to get those players pumped up in the locker room.
It's just talk.
Right now it's just talk. I mean, I was ready to run through a wall for this guy in his first press conference. Now I'm like, hey, are you gonna run with us? Like, it seems like you're just yelling at us. Are you running with us? So that's the thing.
Shout out to Coach Dante in here, but go ahead, Alex.
So, to Rick was saying, why are we kind of ripping him in that aspect? You can't say that. You cannot say that in a year you're supposed to be winning. Go back to KB's point. I mean, like there was, I didn't. I'm gonna be honest here. I was not that much of a football fan in 2015. I watched it here and there. Like one of the full games I watched was that Jet game, and obviously from what I've heard, Coughlin was really conservative towards the end of his career. And one of the plays I do remember is that 4th and 2 in the red zone, they go for it. Eli Manning throws an interception, and then we all know what happens there. But also the field goal could have been applicable, which would have made the game, I think, like 2 scores or something like that, because we were losing by 10. Well, actually, no, we were up by 10, and then we lost. But I definitely do see the Aldrich Rosas thing. I feel like that would be a burner to us, but Graham Gano is the better kicker. You can't say that stuff in a winning year. You cannot be making those excuses. I know Jason Garrett was making some comments this week. He's like, oh, well, we're going to get better. No. That was last year. You should have done it last year. No. We gave him a cushion last year. There's a lot of points to be made against Joe Judge last year because of facing backup quarterbacks and stuff like that, But you can't say that in a winning year. You can't. All the stuff is going to collapse and all the points are going to come out from under the rug. Jason Garrett, we've complained about his play calling for the last year and a half almost, it seems like. Well, whose fault is that? It's his fault and Joe Judge's fault because he oversees the game plan. Same thing when you want to complain about Patrick Graham. Same thing when you want to complain about the discipline of the players. I understand that Dexter Lawrence is the one who supposedly jumped off sides, but that can't happen. That cannot happen.
Right.
It's on the coaches. And I hate to make this point, but for my baseball fans out there, it seems like let me reverse that. Joe Judge is an Aaron Boone, except Aaron Boone has not made false promises.
This.
And
Wait,
also,
yes.
and also Aaron Boone has a winning record, but we want to go to talk about Jason Garrett, right? Jason Garrett is like Aaron Boone in the aspect, yeah, he's got a winning record, but the roster probably just like, kind of carried him. The coaching wasn't the thing that carried him to winning records.
It's funny that you say that because after week 1, like I retweeted this quote. I don't know if I deleted it because people didn't understand what I was going at, but it was a Joe Judge quote, and it literally sounded just like an Aaron Boone quote. You know those Aaron Boone quotes after the game, like, "Oh, I believe in the guys."
He said in week 3, after the Falcons game, I liked a lot of the stuff that our guys did today. I'm like,
it's like the same stuff, right? Do you see that?
Yes, I do. Unfortunately,
Isn't it funny though? It's like it's kind of like
odd.
Wow.
I'm sure he really loved that punt from the 39-yard line. I thought he thought it was a great punt.
He doesn't.
Oh
But God. KB, what are you talking about? He doesn't play scared. He doesn't live in a world of fear.
Yeah, he said that. He's like, I don't live in a world
terrified.
of fear. I'm like, that's cap. You're capping hard now, bro.
And that makes no sense. You listen to his press conferences, and you're like, man, this guy is a go-getter. Right? This is like Riverboat Ron 2.0. Like, this is a guy that's gonna go, play hard to the end of the whistle, go 4 on 4th down. You know how Ron Rivera is. The man don't play. He'll go 4 on 4th down. And he's a defensive head coach. All right, this man will have his offense out there on 4th down and 9. And
4th down and 9, like on their own 40.
Exactly.
We should know from the first game we won last year.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But they went for it plenty of times. Yeah, but I understand that point. But you would think he was a guy that to go ahead and go 4 on 4th down, and then based on the press conferences, and you look at him in the game, he's like a dog with his tail down, man. He's like so scary. Yeah, exactly. He's a totally different coach from on the field than off the field. Totally different coach than what he talks about. Because I can't believe a word he says now. Like, usually you don't anyway, because I always call, I don't even listen to press conferences that much anymore because they just all cookie cutter. Like, it doesn't even matter who you watch. From a coach from any team, GM from any team, they're going to tell you what you want to hear. They give you the most vaguest answers. They're never insightful at all. Half the time they're talking to you, they're lying to you. So
that's why I respect Aaron Rodgers for that press conference.
Oh, that he just gave it to you how it was. He wasn't, he didn't care about the PR team down his back and anything like that. So I mean, I don't know. Joe Judge, he's becoming a broken record at this point.
Oh, Alex, I couldn't tell if you raised your hand or not. But by the way, shout out to Brittany Connor in here.
Yeah, you make
love
sure
the
you raise your
raising
hand next time.
hand.
You hear me?
Wait, so did you or not?
I did not.
Okay. I was like, I can't tell, man.
You heard the hum with the sniff. So, did you?
Nah, bro, listen, I may or may not have a cold, bro. That's about it.
Oh man.
Nah, but I mean, unless you guys got anything else to say, I might close out here or any other questions you want to pose for the chat, for the panel. Go ahead.
Oh, can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
Not that I haven't already asked 50. How do you guys think the locker room is? What do you think?
I think, listen, nobody's going to like this answer, all right? All right, I'm going to definitely lose subscribers for this. I think the locker room is like this close from being gone, bro. I think they're like just
I think
one
they're
more
just
bad
holding.
loss,
Yeah.
one more slew of terrible coaching, and like nobody picking up the slack from saying, why are we here?
I think they're starting to realize that Joe Judge's because like they were definitely on board with Joe Judge.
Just look at Kenny Galladay and his press conferences, and that's all you need to know.
Not even that. Just look at the
Like,
penalties. Just look at the constant penalties. Just look at the constant, undiscipline of this team.
Jason
They are
Garrett.
obviously
Throw him under the bus.
Yeah. They're obviously just like not believing in Joe Judge's talking anymore. Like you saw the first season, they were like, "Oh, Joe Judge this, Joe Judge that." Even the beginning of the season, they were like hyping up Joe Judge, the best thing ever. He's so strict that we love the way he coaches. La la la. Now you see this team starting to like give up a little bit, and I
I was
think
about
they're
to say to Joe Judge, "You take a lap."
exactly. They're this close from just like breaking like that veil, that facade of Joe Judge, and just revolting at this point. So I don't know. I hope a 2017 Ben McAdoo situation does not happen where they literally play to get him fired. Like Janoris Jenkins, JPP, all those guys, they were literally missing tackles just to lose games. And I've never seen a team do that before, but I hope that's not the same situation.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Alex?
I have to be on the same board. I mean, like it's one thing about players, but like when your offensive coordinator literally says, "Yeah, that's not my decision." I mean, how close?
Right, bro. He was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, that's not a joke. That's Joe Judge, man."
that's not me. So I think the locker room is pretty close to falling apart if it hasn't already inside. I mean, we don't know officially yet. But in response to Jaden's thing, Joe Judge should be fired next year, not this year. If Dave Gettleman's fired, just get rid of everybody. I mean,
Please.
I get
I
like
think he might retire too, to be honest. Like
they might also keep him. I'm not saying they'll keep him as a general manager, but like move him to a scouting role because he's really good at that. He's not good at making contracts and all these other things. But let's not. I don't know if Luca's still here, but let's not have a Jets situation. Literally, I'll recap the chronological events. You go back to 2015 when they did the right thing. Hired Todd Bowles as their head coach. Mike McCagnon as the GM. Was it like 2 years later, they fire Bowles but keep McCagnon. Adam Gase, for 2019, they hire him. Then they get rid of him after the draft because Adam Gase isn't happy with him. And Adam Gase wasn't happy that he signed Le'Veon Bell, which, we all know where Le'Veon Bell is right now. Then what happens is they hire Joe Douglas, didn't have a full offseason to evaluate. Jets go 7-9. Then he has a full offseason to evaluate. Jets go 2-14. They fire Adam Gase, and now they have a new head coach with the GM who's been in there for almost 2 years now. And what also happens is that many are questioning Joe Douglas and the possibility of actually him getting fired this year. So no, let's get rid of everybody or just keep it status quo.
Yep.
I mean, yeah, I agree.
he probably should have done that when they got rid of Shermer, to be honest.
Yeah, that's what everybody's saying. I mean that's what most of us were talking about back when it happened. It should have been that way.
And that's somebody put it in the chat earlier. I'm sorry I don't remember, but I completely agree. They're like, whether or not Judge deserves a third year, it doesn't matter if Gettleman is fired. He should go with him.
Yeah.
And realistically, you don't really want to, because what if hypothetically they keep Judge and he's not the coach next year? That's just showing that you're a garbage franchise like the Jaguars or the Jets. No, you don't want to. You literally don't want to see that result. If it works, it works. But you don't want to see that result. Oh well, we waited another year on Joe Judge, and look what's happening to our team. Yeah, thank you, John Mara. Thank you, John Mara.
Exactly. We got to thank Chris Mara as well, bro, because guess what? if there's
Nepotism.
one, we've been talking about, talent and whatnot, and just the team in general. He's VP of football operations, and he's been here for about a decade. So there's your most common denominator that you could find for like our entirety of all of our struggles over the past decade. If you want to take anything from that,
VP of the Giants dumpster fire.
yeah. And the only reason he still has that job is literally because his name is Mara. So I mean, it is what it is.
Someone's gotta-
So someone needs to marry into the Mara family.
Who though? Who?
I honestly, I mean, I know Kush is monetized, but someone needs to marry into the Mara family and grab Mara's balls and say, "What the hell are you doing with this team?"
Probably
At the wedding. A toast.
to John Mara. Oh man, but
man.
yeah, though. I mean, yeah, I think that's gonna be it, though, guys. We hit the 90-minute mark. I do want to say thank you to everybody that tuned in, whether you're here right now or not. A shout out to everybody that liked the stream, and of course, thank you to Big Blue the Bronx, Lauren, and Kid Blue here. Guys, go ahead, plug anything you want to plug. I know Kid Blue literally just published a video not too long ago, so go ahead.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you, guys.
I guess for
Wow.
me,
Oh, you're not
Amazing.
plugging it?
I didn't know who was gonna talk, so I was like kind
Yeah.
of speaking low because I didn't want to
I
interrupt.
thought you were
anybody,
plugging the
but
video. He's like, all right, thanks, guys.
I was like, oh, thanks, guys. I didn't know who else was gonna talk, but I appreciate that, Kush. I appreciate that, man. Go watch the
Mhm.
video, guys. It's a good one. It's a good one. It really dives into, gives a realistic view of where this team is at, because I compare it to most of the teams that were in our position a couple years ago, and now they're thriving and we're not. So, yeah.
I guess for me, after this, I'm actually going to record an episode of my podcast that I do, Giants and Yankees related. But it's going to be on the Giants, obviously previewing the Saints. So that will be out like 12:30 tomorrow. Tuesdays and Saturdays. It's a weird schedule, but that's for my channel. Check out the videos. Got some articles coming out. I actually got one that's like 2,600 words on the fact of the Giants been terrible, and this is the reason why. And also, Boys in the Big Apple, just an all sports podcast live stream, 8:10 p.m. Mondays.
I love
Yeah,
that
Lauren.
name. Boys in the Big Apple.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
Good. That's a good name, man.
I love that. So my channel, my channel is Chica Sports. And I just posted a preview video for the game.
Nice.
Yeah. I was like,
Nice.
it's up. If you guys go to the channel, you'll see it there.
Cool.
You might want to
Bet.
check it out. I don't know. I'm not saying it's that good or anything. Give
That's
it a
all
solid
good.
5 out of 10.
Solid 5.
I'd say it's solid 7, but yeah, you got it.
If you guys
5
are
is
really
solid.
bored. No, I'm just kidding.
No, but that's gonna be it though, guys. It's clear that the stream has run its course. So
I
we're
have
gonna close
derailed
it
the
out.
stream tonight. I am sorry.
You say that every time you tune in, but like, nah.
Because
Not really.
I'm like all over the place. I can't concentrate on one thing.
But yeah, though, guys, we're gonna end it out. Thank you all for tuning in. That's it for now. Peace.
Thanks, Brady.